Welcome to Life Stories. What would you do if your own parents looked you in the eye and said, we're giving your life's work to your sister because she needs it more? This isn't fiction. This is the story of a woman who built an $8 million company from nothing, only to be treated like a walking wallet by the very people she spent her life sacrificing for. She thought success would finally earn her their love. Instead, it exposed a painful truth. Not all families are built on love. Some are built on expectation, guilt, and quiet betrayal. If you've ever felt like you were only valued for what you could give, not for who you are, this story will hit you deep. Stay with us until the end, because what she does next will surprise you, and maybe help you find the courage to draw your own line. Let's begin. Madison Clark had learned how to disappear without leaving a room. She'd mastered the art in childhood, sitting quietly at the kitchen table in their tiny Ashford home while her parents argued about bills or discussed Brianna's latest doctor visit. She'd blend into the wallpaper, unnoticed, unremarked upon, except when something needed fixing, funding, or forgiving. Now, at 32, Madison sat at the head of a long, reclaimed wood table inside the sleek glass office of Brightwell Solutions, her company, her triumph, and wondered how, after everything she'd built, she still felt invisible. A recent Forbes feature had called her a rising force in digital strategy, and the company's valuation had just crossed $8 million. Yet, last Sunday during a family dinner she should have skipped, her father had looked across a steaming roast and said, "We've given your shares to your sister. She needs them more than you do." Her mother had nodded in solemn agreement. Brianna hadn't even pretended to be surprised. Madison hadn't screamed, hadn't argued. She'd simply murmured, "Is that so?" and excused herself from the table. That night, while the rest of Ashford slept, she logged into the investor account linked to Brightwell's expansion fund. Slowly, deliberately, she withdrew every personal dollar she had ever put in. It wasn't revenge, it was rescue. The next morning, she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Sharp cheekbones, dark circles under intelligent eyes, and a kind of hard-earned wariness that no night cream could solve. For a moment, she thought about calling Michael. He'd always told her something wasn't right with her family dynamic. She just hadn't wanted to hear it. Not then. Instead, she got dressed. Power suit, navy, minimal jewelry, hair in a clean chignon, and she walked into Brightwell with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Madison had grown up in sacrifice. Her childhood was a map of denial. Birthday parties skipped, scholarships declined, dreams postponed, so that Brianna could have the normal life her asthma supposedly denied her. Madison mowed lawns, sold lemonade, fixed neighbors' Wi-Fi routers before she was old enough to drive. She paid for her own textbooks, her own phone, and most of Brianna's community college tuition too. Before Brianna dropped out, saying it wasn't a fit. Brianna floated from job to job, boyfriend to boyfriend, and eventually to Tyler Green, a failed musician with more guitars than paychecks. They had 2 children, and soon after, 2 mortgages Madison quietly co-signed. And through it all, she kept building Brightwell. Brick by digital brick, with Eli Parker coding like a madman beside her. They turned a late-night college project into a streamlined analytics platform that caught the attention of regional health, then a major tech incubator. Madison pitched, negotiated, sold, delivered, while Brianna painted abstract daisies in the garage and posted them to Instagram with captions like, "Finding my truth." But that dinner, that night, it shattered something. Not because they stole from her, but because it finally confirmed the truth she'd refused to see. They had never believed Brightwell was hers. She was their safety net. Nothing more. Now, as sunlight poured through her office windows, reflecting off the glass towers of downtown, Madison opened a drawer and pulled out a worn leather notebook. It was the same one she'd used when she was 11, calculating lemonade profits in tidy little columns. She flipped past the old pages until she reached a blank one. At the top, she wrote in careful block letters, "Phoenix, a name. A plan. A rebirth." She didn't know what the future looked like yet, but she knew one thing. Brightwell had been her proving ground. Phoenix would be her sanctuary. Madison had just closed the notebook when Eli knocked and entered without waiting. He was breathless, pale. "Your sister's at reception," he said. "She's asking for a meeting with the design team." "What?" "She says she's the new creative director, that she owns part of the company now." Madison stood slowly. Her pulse pounded in her ears. "Get Rachel Klein on the line," she said, voice low but lethal. "And tell security to stay close." She walked into the hallway, heels echoing like war drums. Because if Brianna thought this story ended with a quiet surrender, she had never really known Madison at all. Have you ever been valued only for what you could give, not who you truly are? What would it take for you to finally say enough? What happened next in that conference room would change everything, not just for Madison, but for everyone who'd ever underestimated her. Continue to Part 2, The Reckoning. Brianna sat in the conference room like she owned it, legs crossed, smile fixed, a latte in hand that she'd clearly helped herself to from the employee kitchen. The design team hovered nearby, unsure whether to stay or scatter. A junior developer nervously fidgeted with her pen. Madison saw the confusion in their eyes. This wasn't just awkward, it was undermining. Madison stepped in, shoulders square, her presence shifting the room's gravity. "Brianna," she said evenly, "we need to talk, now." Her sister turned with a saccharine grin. "Mad, I was just introducing myself. Thought it was time I got involved, now that I'm officially a shareholder." The words tasted bitter, even coming from someone else's mouth. Official? As if that meant anything when the reality was built on entitlement, not effort. Madison held open the door without another word. In her office, Brianna sauntered in like it was a casual brunch date. "You know, I was thinking we could totally rebrand. Brightwell sounds so techy. Maybe something more organic, like Soul Bloom Digital." Madison closed the door. "You don't work here." Brianna blinked. "Excuse me? You are not employed by Brightwell. You were not invited. You have no role here, and if you ever speak to my team like you did today, I'll have you escorted out." There was a pause, not of shock, but calculation. "So this is about control," Brianna said, voice low and calm now. Classic Madison. Can't stand the idea of sharing the spotlight. A short laugh broke from Madison's throat, not amused, just exhausted. "Sharing the spotlight would require you to do something worth sharing." Brianna stood. "You're unbelievable. Mom and Dad said you might react this way, but I thought you'd be bigger than this. Gracious." Madison's voice turned cold. "Mom and Dad don't understand business, and you've never lifted a finger for this company? You think because you were handed something, you've earned a place here?" "I was owed something." Brianna snapped suddenly. "You got out. You got everything. I stayed behind. I helped them." Madison stared at her. "You helped them?" "I was them. I paid for their house, their car, their prescriptions, your tuition, your wedding, your husband's failed studio. I was the backup plan you called every time real life got hard." Brianna's face crumpled momentarily, and Madison thought she saw something there, a flicker of recognition. But then Brianna squared her jaw. "Well," she said, voice trembling, "good luck explaining to Mom and Dad why you're cutting us off. Again." And she left. The door clicked shut like a gun chamber snapping closed. That night, Madison sat in her apartment with Michael, replaying every word. She really believes she deserves a piece of this. She honestly thinks this was some kind of cosmic lottery, and I just got luckier. Michael, silent until now, said gently, "She doesn't know what work looks like. Not really. She only knows dependence dressed as family." The words struck deep, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. "What if they never loved me for me?" Madison whispered. "What if it was always transactional?" Michael didn't answer immediately. Then, "Does it matter now?" It was a brutal question. And yet, freeing. Maybe it didn't matter anymore. Maybe the love she had craved for decades, the acknowledgement, the pride, the warmth, wasn't ever coming. Maybe she had to stop hoping it would. But hope dies slowly. The next morning, her phone buzzed with a message from Rachel Klein. "We need to talk. There's been a move on the 15% shares." Madison's breath caught. She called immediately. "They've retained a lawyer," Rachel said. "Someone clearly not qualified, but aggressive. They're threatening a lawsuit to gain voting power over company direction, citing family partnership claims." "But they can't," Madison said. "Their shares don't give them that kind of leverage." No, Rachel confirmed. Legally, you're safe, but this is going public, Madison, and it's going to get ugly. Later that day, her inbox exploded. Media inquiries, a blog post accusing Madison of stealing from her own family. It was anonymous, but everyone knew who had written it. The tone was unmistakable, faux concern, passive aggression wrapped in a bow of moral superiority. The worst part wasn't the lies, it was how many people wanted to believe them. Eli barged into her office furious. Do you want me to respond? I can take this apart line by line. No, Madison said. We don't feed fires, we build fireproof walls. Still, it shook her. Not the business threat. Phoenix was already quietly absorbing Brightwell's key clients, and her team was loyal. No, what shook her was the realization that she had spent a lifetime proving herself to people who would always move the goalposts. She thought of Brianna's face that day, both smug and scared, a child clinging to a myth she'd outgrown. And then, for the first time in years, Madison cried. Not from weakness, but from grief. Because the love she'd fought for, it wasn't hers to save. Have you ever had to choose between protecting your peace and keeping a family bond alive, no matter how toxic? When the next knock comes at Madison's door, it won't from a lawyer, or from Brianna. It'll be from someone she never expected to see again. Continue to Part 3, Bloodlines and Battlefields. It was raining the night Madison's father knocked on her door. Not drizzling, but the kind of cold, unrelenting rain that soaks through coats and into bone. She stood frozen for a moment, hand hovering over the doorknob, heart ricocheting inside her chest. Through the peephole, she saw Frank Clark, older than she remembered, face pale beneath the porch light, hat in hand like a boy standing outside the principal's office. She opened the door. I didn't come to fight, he said, voice roughened by age, or maybe guilt. She didn't move aside. Then why are you here? He looked up at her, water clinging to his lashes. Because I finally started listening. 1,000 replies bloomed and withered on her tongue. She let silence answer for her. He cleared his throat. Your mother's not well. Early onset dementia. It's been happening slowly, but lately, she's not herself. Madison's breath caught. She asks about you every day. Sometimes she calls you by your childhood nickname. Sometimes she thinks you're still in college. Sometimes she forgets you at all. He rubbed a hand over his face. And I think she regrets what we did. I know I do. Madison swallowed the knot in her throat. She hadn't seen her mother in months, not since the accusations, the voicemail laced with guilt and tears. Part of her had needed that distance to breathe. But this cracked something. I told her we lost you. Frank said, his voice trembling. But I came here tonight hoping maybe that's not true. Madison didn't invite him in, but she didn't close the door either. She listened. The hospital was cold. Always cold. The kind that made you hug your elbows even when you didn't mean to. Madison walked down the sterile hallway, each step loud in the hush. Room 417. Her mother sat by the window, humming something tuneless, twisting the hem of a blanket between her fingers. Mom? She said softly. Linda Clark looked up, confused, then brightened. Oh, Maddie, there you are. For a moment, just a moment, everything faded. The betrayal, the bitterness, the bank statements and share transfers and unanswered calls. In her mother's eyes, there was only the simple, radiant recognition of a daughter. She crossed the room and sat beside her. Linda touched her face like it was made of glass. You look tired. Are you eating enough? Madison let out a soft laugh, something between wonder and ache. I'm doing okay, Mom. That's good, her mother said, nodding. Then suddenly, Brianna's painting again. Did you know? She showed me one yesterday. A house on fire. Strange, right? Madison flinched. She said it's about you, Linda added, eyes cloudy now. But that can't be right. You were always the strong one. Tears slipped down Madison's cheeks, silent and hot. She didn't wipe them away. That afternoon she sat with her mother until she fell asleep, watched her breathe, wondered how love could survive in such a tangle of memory and harm. And still, it did. A month later, the court approved the reorganization of Brightwell. The remaining assets were officially absorbed into Phoenix Digital. The name Clark was scrubbed from the board, from ownership records, from the company history, except where legally required. It was done. Eli threw a celebration at the office. Catered tacos, champagne, and plastic flutes, music loud enough to shake off the past. Madison smiled for her team, toasted the future, and then slipped away early. Outside, Michael was waiting in the car. He reached for her hand as she climbed in. "How was it?" "Good," she said. "Final. Clean." They drove in silence for a few blocks. Then Madison whispered, "I saw Mom again yesterday. She thought I was Brianna. Called me baby girl and asked if I'd brought her favorite tea." Michael's hand tightened around hers. "Did you correct her?" "No." Madison looked out the window. "I just made her tea." He didn't speak, but his eyes did, offering her something rarer than understanding. Quiet witness. The letter came 3 days later, handwritten, the envelope bent at the corners. "Maddie, I don't know if I'll ever get the words right, but I'm trying. I thought love meant always giving to the one who needs the most. I thought you were strong enough to live without it. But maybe I was wrong. I'm sorry I made you invisible. I see you now. I hope that's not too late. Love, Mom." Madison stared at the letter long after she finished reading it. She pressed her forehead to the page, wept. It wasn't an apology that fixed everything, but it was a door, one that had always been closed, cracked open just wide enough for hope to breathe. In the spring, Brianna reached out. A text. No preamble, just, "Can we meet? Just us. I have something to say." Madison didn't reply right away. She talked to her therapist. She walked by the river. She wrote a list of everything she feared and everything she still longed for. Then, one sunny morning in May, she texted back. "Okay, 1 hour, public place, no ambushes." They met at a coffee shop near the university, neutral ground. Brianna looked thinner, tired, her nails were chipped, her hands fidgety. "I wanted to hate you," she said, stirring her coffee. "But I couldn't. You did everything we all depended on you to do. I didn't know how to be someone without that safety net." Madison said nothing. "I'm in school now," Brianna added. "Teaching certificate. It's harder than I thought, but it feels honest, like I'm finally using my own legs." Madison nodded. "I'm glad." "I'm not here to fix anything," Brianna said. "I just wanted you to know, I'm trying." For the first time in years, there was no performance between them. Just two women, sharing space, scarred by the same past, shaped by different choices. Madison stood to leave, but before she did, she placed something on the table. A print, one of Brianna's earliest paintings, the one of a house on fire. "I bought it," Madison said. "At that gallery show. Thought it deserved to be seen." Brianna stared at it, for once speechless. As Madison walked away, she felt it. Not closure, not forgiveness, but something harder and more fragile. Peace born of truth. What part of this story moved you the most? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Type 100 if you felt this story deep in your heart. Where are you watching from? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching Life Stories.